Hello and welcome back to the channel. After 40 years I thought it's a good time to come back to and have a look at CB radio again. As a kid growing up in the 1970s, my already growing interest in radio was only bolstered further by the emerging craze of CB in TV shows and movies. So as a kid wandering the local housing estate with my walkie-talkie, I could only dream of owning a shiny chrome multi-switch CB radio such as those that I had seen on shows like The Dukes of Hazzard and films like Smokey and the Bandit and Convoy. As mentioned in my other videos, my dad would bring back the Radio Shack catalogues from business visits to America, and I would quickly skip past the hi-fi equipment section to the only section in the whole book that really mattered to me. During the late 1970s, the black market for American CB radio really took hold, and they were used mainly by truck drivers here in the UK, but more latterly by the general public. The sets imported from the States operated on AM, but could not legally be used here in the UK as the channels conflicted with radio model control frequencies. However, this did not stop their use and they became an underground sensation. I'm not going into the full history of that here with this video, but we'll want to look at how the CB has evolved and where it is now in the scheme of things, next to other what you would call probably real citizens radio, which is PMR or FRS. Now, in the UK, CB was legalised in 1981. There were two sets of frequencies initially, 40 channels on the 27 MHz band, and as many folks still don't remember, 20 channels on the 934 MHz band. In 1987, 40 additional frequencies were added which matched the US allocation, all using FM. This additional band is referred to as the CEPT band. Use of the 934 MHz CB band wasn't mainstream enough to be viable, and its use was prohibited in 1999. Up until 2006, a licence was required to operate a CB here in the UK. A one-off fee of £15 was to be paid. There was no requirement to pass any exam or technical competence test at the time. As of December 2006, the requirement for a licence was removed, and the CB became licence-free for personal communications. In June 2014, single sideband and AM operations now allowed in the EU across all 80 channels. The new sets though must be approved and not older legacy multimode sets, but in reality who is really going to find out? Power in the US and in the UK is limited to 4 watts and up to 12 watts on sideband. With all this in mind, I decided that I would buy two sets, a fully legal UK 80 channel radio. This has the original 40 channel allocation and the extra CEPT channels. This also means technically that the UK radios can be used with modern American CB radios. As a kid, I always wanted a shiny American style rig, but many of the affordable radios were basically black boxes with simple controls, made down to a price. The only one in my price range was the Rotel RVC220. This radio was actually sold in the shop Argos here in the UK at the time. This was my first rig and entry into the hobby. I used it all through the 1980s. Of course, I ran it through a burner as well. Had hours of fun with SWR, good and bad, power mics, eyeball cards, the full Monty, CB experience. So much fun was had. Scouring eBay and Amazon, I plumped for these two radios, the first being an 80 channel budget radio from Thunderpole. This is a brand from the 1980s that was used to sell antennas back then here in the UK, although I am pretty sure that the name has simply been taken on or acquired in order to help sell radios to people like me. Now, as mentioned, I really wanted a nice shiny radio like the ones that I had seen in the movies and those magazines all those years ago, but could never have afforded one at the time. So I got looking. To buy a new CB radio like this from UK suppliers is still quite expensive. Looking at UK stockists, they all wanted for up to £300 for radios like this, which is much too much really for me. So I went looking on eBay and in the States. As I've already mentioned, the new US CB radios use the same CEPT block of frequencies as the European radios. Now, the US sets won't have the UK 40 channel allocation, but they will have the EU allocation, so in theory they should be compatible with modern 80 channel UK CB radios. If not entirely legal, but that's just semantics really, as both radios are still 4 watt maximum power output and still have the same bandwidth and frequency allocation. So for just shy of 65 UK pounds, I picked up this It's on its way from the States as I record this video. It also includes a mag mount antenna as well. Mick is going to join me in some testing over the next few weeks to see if there is any activity locally, and we're also going to do some range testing of both radios to see if a CB is really still a fun and practical, useful radio to use. Being radio hams, I hear a lot of snobby comments, particularly on HF with regard to CB radio, and I often hear back, "Go back to CB where you belong," in arguments and disputes. However, in my experience, nearly all hams I know started off with CB radio in the first place, and people that I have heard using the service often do so with about as much decorum as many dyed-in-the-wood radio hams do, who rarely use their call signs or practice any operating practices and procedures as they should be doing. It often amuses me just how these same folks then tell M call signs to go back to CB. Anyway, I'm sidetracking here. A quick look at the Thunderpole T-800. Right, I've just got the mag mount sat on top of the printer, not SWR or anything, and there it is. It's the little T-800 down here. Very small little radio. For the money though, it's not that badly made. Anyway, channel 14 FM selection here. You've got an automatic squelch button on the top, and volume and manual squelch and RF gain on here as well. And that little green light means that the auto squelch is on, I think. Push and hold it and it goes off. Just turn the squelch down. RF gain. Turn the keying up. The transmit lights. It's the auto squelch switched off. Manual squelch on the front. And an RF gain. And just the sensitivity on that. Right, we'll take it out in the field and see how we get on with it. Join me on the next video when the American radio turns up, and me and Mick will do some range tests and have a really good play about with the sets. Whilst I don't think we will be selling all of our ham radio gear anytime soon, I'm pretty sure we're going to enjoy another dabble with CB radio.
I'm gonna nail Bo and Luke Duke. Nail him.
Oh, crazy gooder talking, turkey coming right down my alley.
I'm having a picnic. Which way to the beach?
I want those slot machines.
Now we got him! We got him!
I wish those Duke boys were on my side.
Happy birthday, Daisy.
Why, thank you, Enos.
Now get her out. Don't stand there, go get her! Welcome to Hazard County.